도체나 나지 감티도 스토리 아니 뒤치고야 나와로야 비주얼 아니 시경기 스테이트먼트마 로르나 슈에 나오는 거로
오마들이야 사마리아 같은 근데 생기지데 government 비베고 군대에 텔레 시경 처리 아니 뭔가 충분히 가능성이 실로중동 조기 구월 당년 제와 땀라 전주기 예제 동기요 최저기 이내 그거 자산 카라 중기 당진 담다 지제 톡 의미 리지 때문에 공사 때문에 전부 초라 군대 미숙에 자주남 면반의 칩이 동기요 내가 그 랑용 중에 그 의미 그도 사고 끌라 담다 재미기 이배 응의 내단 딜 예지남 왠지 예배 저미 토당 초박하기 공기 제휴 라완 속배 이동 중 근데 재미라 지 민년발 지민년으로 국민 그 미리 탑들라 하고 남다다 다시 이메지 대배 잡혀 난게 zamling 샤는 강사를 해봐 제다라 대링기 고각 일송대 가상내 까진 제전기 투지체 제 주주인 학발 자가르기 자가르 당 대된 뉴도 세대 이제 분양동 비싸상기 이마 뉴도 자를 면디 수탁제 수비제 그 의미 미국이 시동 지금 이동 주주도 근데 지주라 그렇잖아
나와라 도체나 아니 디슈리아 페말라라 비주얼 아니 카샤기 스테이트먼트 시경기 스테이트먼트 인지도니아 로로스 비주얼이
I'll be reading the statement from the Sikyong on the 57th anniversary of Tibetan National Uprising Day in English. Today marks the 57th anniversary of the Tibetan people's peaceful uprising in 1959 against People's Republic of China's invasion and occupation of Tibet. On this occasion, my colleagues in the Kashag and I would like to pay tribute and pray for all those brave men and women who laid down their lives for the just cause of Tibet. We express our solidarity with those who continue to suffer repression under Chinese rule. Though decades have passed by with Tibet controlled by China, the Tibetan people have been able to maintain their identity and spirit despite living under difficult situations. New generations, inspired by the sacrifices made by their elders, have taken the responsibility to strive for the cause of Tibet. The courage and conviction of our compatriots inside Tibet deserves deep admiration. The Chinese government routinely claims that there is happiness and prosperity with the development of a new Tibet. But the truth is otherwise. All the areas inhabited by the ensuring the welfare of Tibetan people in exile. We offer our heartfelt gratitude to all of them. Finally, we sincerely pray for a healthy and long life to our most esteemed leader, His Holiness the Great 14th Dalai Lama. May all his wishes be fulfilled. May there be an immediate resolution to the issue of Tibet. Above all, may the day of the union of Tibetans inside and outside Tibet emerge swiftly. Sikyong, Central Tibetan Administration.
도체나 페말라 아니 디젤이야 나라조의 보스턴 퓨리 치디 소베 아니 소조 선언 지하상이야 아니 드링기 투드링기 데베 아니 수제 필름 시도치 비슈에 선언가 이거 저거 대수지시가 조다가 체체레 지금 나중 나고로 아니 자콘체고 벨 페이지는 제왕 통에 아니 게 베자카디 사샤와지 미츠미 체체 리슈아이 대체는 나도 다 자가레 비율이 자가 모도질 아니 샤죠 대기니 그 이제 냐 타고 이제 강에 돌대고 있는 차 맞지 아니 가사라 네 대사송 세네가서도 아니 배 더위 고서 공바다 내가 리지티네 몸버지 도시 셰샤와 때라 민지 셰셰네 아주 디리 디제디 수지 셰야 조데 마오가 무라라 모사바라 아주 디제기 제제 셰야데 아주 텐데도 리지다 아니 차시 템바 마 무트네 텐티비가 레와치네 디제 조 셰게야다 이는 가서 달래 배리 대가래 오늘 메시지 달래다 땅에 이제 또때 소소로 너무지 그거 예스 아주 지 내가 찍고 매워지 아주 지텐들 대는 너무 타동된 가서 지게 신 아주 미시게 지게 메시지 아주 드림 배다데 디시고요리 그린 아주 디스디 시야는 배다데 시단 소소 기능을 가르수에나 소소가 타동을 얘는 아주 시외 또는 부주시에리 된 넘버서 건지치셔야 되죠 그리고 뭐마페 뭐페샤 괜히 떠반에 두디제 디네라 메네라 아니 마뭐 지정한 예시지만 그리페샤 때라 초뱅에는 차지는 두디 체시야당 아니 드림미시데 니스칼라 아니 가서 산에 보스랑 디제데 조지를 미코시네 아니 쇼아리 마치 공원 된지 걔도 우가초라 드는데 페데에 때라 가서 페와데라 아니 게 초뱅에는 차시네 이 떠반에 두디 체시고 공원아 아니 제제라 공화대 패션으로 걸어 수시지 나로 주셔야
토마대 우리 수주 주제 송지 제고 배배 따뜻한가 뭐 생산의 대지가 저도 그래 가는 건데 상호가 열심히 어떻게 연결 나가서 그때로 이제 잘 부탁 주시고 섭취를 상호도 테스트 해주시고 지난 가서 다리 근데 그 송지 지구의 미유치 된다 예지 미만하고 다 다리 이모지 계주고 있는 다 보도다 지세시 지구의 인산이 이게 다리 시까지 쉬어 있고 이게 나 쉬셔 Good afternoon everyone. I want to firstly begin by saying that this morning I had the honor and opportunity to see His Holiness the Dalai Lama off at the Boston airport as he was transiting from Madison to Europe after having undergone and completed a successful medical treatment in Rochester. So I'm very pleased to say that His Holiness is in excellent health and he left in very good spirits and he's now begun his full public engagement and tomorrow, as some of you may have already read in the media, tomorrow His Holiness will be in Geneva speaking at an event that's happening in conjunction with the ongoing Annual Human Rights Commission in Geneva. This meeting is being organized and hosted by the US and Canadian governments. So, to the best of my knowledge, this is probably the first time that His Holiness will be speaking at a very high-profile event while an important UN meeting is happening concurrently. So, obviously, the Chinese government is very upset, but we're grateful to the US and Canadian government for extending the invitation to His Holiness and for offering His Holiness this very high-profile platform to speak about human rights and freedom and related issues, both to the diplomatic community in Geneva as well as to the world at large. So I wanted to just first of all begin with that. Well, the reason why we're here this afternoon is to commemorate the 57th anniversary of the Tibetan National Uprising Day, which, as most of you all are aware, is politically the most important day for Tibetans, because 57 years ago to this day, thousands and thousands of Tibetans peacefully rose up and opposed and fought against the brutal Chinese invasion and occupation. So on this day, I would like to acknowledge, remember, and honor the sacrifices and contributions of our elders, of the people inside Tibet, and of our friends and supporters everywhere. even though we are now 57 years past 1959, when you look at the situation today, it's not an easy one. We're faced with many challenges and many obstacles, and I don't want to go through a whole list of them, but let me highlight a few. Well, first of all, the situation in Tibet has not really improved, and in spite of repeated and good faith proposals offered by the Tibetan leadership, Beijing has continued to stonewall. So while the Tibetan leadership has expressed its willingness, its readiness to peacefully dialogue with the Beijing government to resolve the Tibet issue, but so far we have not received a positive response from the Chinese government. And secondly, if you look at the situation inside Tibet, it continues to be very critical. The Chinese government has further consolidated its control, its occupation. The Tibetans are marginalized. Yes, the Chinese government has brought about a lot of development, but the development has disproportionately benefited the Chinese people. And it has in fact enabled thousands and thousands of Chinese to migrate to Tibet and Tibetan areas, and creating a situation now where in our own homeland, especially in the urban areas, Tibetans today are now a minority. And then when you look at the situation outside Tibet, those of us here in exile, especially after 2011, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama made the historic decision to transfer all his political powers over to an elected political leadership, we are still in the process of finding a way through and taking very small steps towards democracy. And in fact, in a week or so's time, on March 20th, when Tibetans all over the world, unfortunately outside Tibet, when they go and vote for the new Sikyong and the new parliament, the March 20th election represents a very important step towards further improvement, further consolidation, further learning in our relatively new experience with democracy. And then, hanging over our heads is obviously His Holiness's advancing age, and the fact that His Holiness is getting older and will not be with us forever. And as I've shared with community members wherever I go, there's also a profound changes happening within the exile community in terms of voluntary displacement, people migrating for better lives, for better education from India and Nepal to mainly to the West. So this represents both an opportunity as well as a challenge, because as more and more people leave India and Nepal, there's less of a center and become more of a worship community. But I would urge all my Tibetan brothers and sisters and our friends that in spite of all these challenges and obstacles, we should also recognize the many opportunities and positives that we have. And again, if I could just share a few of them with you this afternoon. Well, first of all, in His Holiness the Dalai Lama, we have been blessed with a leader who has, in his remarkable life, has transcended and has become this global icon of peace, morality, and justice. And through his commitment and through his ongoing efforts to bring about a more compassionate world, a more happy world, and to promote dialogue and peace between different faiths, and to speak about, to highlight the challenges that the unique Tibetan Buddhist culture and the Tibetan environment face. What His Holiness has done in a way that no one else could do is to elevate the Tibet issue onto the global platform and bring in millions and millions of people who would otherwise not have heard, not have been exposed to the Tibet issue. So for this, Tibetans are amazingly, amazingly fortunate that we have His Holiness still with us. So that's something that none of us, I know, will not forget, but again, it needs reminding. And secondly, if you see what's happening in Tibet, our people inside Tibet have not given up. And the most dramatic and striking symbol of that undying Tibetan spirit is the spate of self-immolations that have been happening since 2009, both inside Tibet as well as outside. And just last week, we lost two of our very young members. One was barely 16, the other one barely 18, one in India, one in Tibet. They both decided to take that ultimate extreme step of, in many ways, representing the collective Tibetan discontentment against Chinese occupation, against Chinese oppression. So no amount of Chinese brutality, no amount of Chinese bribery through injecting millions and millions of yuan will really change that basic fact. The basic fact being that Tibetans in Tibet are not happy and they want change. So unless and until the Chinese government and those who rule China really recognize the simple fact there will not be peace and stability in Tibet nor in China. So again, I think that's something that we all we know, we recognize, and that's something that keeps us going. And then again, I want to take a few minutes to also speak about the unique approach that the Tibetan leadership, guided and inspired by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, has adopted to resolve this issue of Tibet. And this is the middle way approach. This was an approach that the Tibetan leadership came at after a very long and careful deliberation, and one that both the previous as well as current Tibetan leadership is strictly and adamantly dedicated to. So if I could just, even from the Sikyong's statement from today, if I could just read that relevant portion. Okay, this is from the Sikyong's March 10th statement. We, the Kashak of the Central Tibetan Administration, firmly believe that the long-standing issue of Tibet can be resolved through dialogue between the envoys of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and representatives of the Chinese government. We remain fully committed to the middle way approach, which clearly seeks genuine autonomy for the Tibetan people within China. It is hoped the leaders in Beijing will see reason with the middle way approach instead of distorting it and step forward to engage in dialogue with His Holiness the Dalai Lama's envoy. So the middle way approach, as challenging as it may seem, represents the most logical, the most viable path forward. And I know that there are differences in our community with this approach, which I think is fine, because our community and our movement should be big enough to accommodate a plurality of approaches. But what is really important is that we focus on fulfilling the aspirations of our people in Tibet. And here I also want to take a little bit of a time to talk about another opportunity that we have, which we all should recognize, which is even though the diaspora Tibetan community, as I was saying earlier, has gathered the community and has made us more of a virtual community, but the people here, the people in Europe, and the people in all across, both in India and Nepal, but especially in the West, this new generation represents so much potential. New potential for new leadership, new thinking, new energy. So, at least for me, wherever I go in North America, just seeing the involvement, the commitment of the younger generation that represents our new leaders, our next generation of people that will keep the movement going forward. I think that's, for me, it's really one of the most positive messages that I take away from where we are right now as a movement. And it's really important for us to not lose hope, to be optimistic, to redouble our efforts, because Tibetans and the Tibet issue, one of our many unique aspects has been the remarkable support that we continue to enjoy in, be it the US Congress, in foreign governments across the world. I mean, just today, Leader Nancy Pelosi and Congressman Jim McGovern, after a very successful visit to Tibet last November, in today's USA Today, they came out with an op-ed, and let me again just read out a portion of it. In this very strong piece, Leader Nancy Pelosi and Congressman McGovern have stated, to make progress on the significant issues between China and Tibet, the Chinese government must set aside its outmoded attitudes towards the Tibetan people and explore the possibility of a new dialogue. Engagement with the Dalai Lama is key for designing a future for Tibet that allows for modernization while protecting and advancing Tibetan culture, language, religion, and way of life. We believe there is an opportunity for a respectful, good faith, high-level dialogue between Chinese officials and the Dalai Lama on resolving outstanding issues regarding Tibetan autonomy and the treatment of Tibetans outside the Tibetan Autonomous Region. As a representative in North America, one of my and my office's key responsibility is to further advocate, sustain, and broaden the relationship and support that we have in the U.S. government and the U.S. Congress. So this is again an area where I would like to encourage as many of you as possible to really reach out and build new support. Just recently, we had a very successful Tibet Lobby Day where over 100 Tibetans and our friends from all across North America, or from the U.S., came to Washington, D.C. and over 2.5 days lobbied and educated and went up to Capitol Hill and met with members of Congress and their staff and presented a case for Tibet and sought the support of the members and the Congress. So this is something which I would urge both the Boston Tibetan Association and its members to actively take on. We would love to see more Tibetans from the Northeast here participate in events like this, because it's really important in this present day and age when there are so many issues competing for attention. We have to make sure that the Tibet issue continues to be on the radar, that we continue to not just depend on a handful of members of Congress, many of whom have dedicated so much of the time and effort towards this issue. But as you all know, many of them are also now at a stage where they may not be in the Congress for that long. So it's really important for us to identify, to educate, and cultivate the support of the next generation of the members of Congress who can take up this issue and advocate for us, because at this time in the world's history, there's no other government besides the US government that can really push Beijing, because as we all can see, Beijing does not really care about what most other governments think about its policy, but it definitely cares. It definitely listens, and it is definitely concerned when the U.S. government, when the U.S. president, when the U.S. Congress acts or speaks up on Tibet. So it's really important for us that we keep doing this advocacy and this keep the pressure on both at the grassroots level as well as in the state capitals and Washington D.C. So with that, I want to conclude by again, I know the weather here today has not really cooperated with us, but again, it's good to see so many of you all coming here, showing your solidarity and your support, and I want to thank you. And lastly, I want to end by saying that I want to extend my best wishes and look forward to working with you all, and I hope with our office now in Washington D.C. that more of you all can come and visit us because we are here to serve you. We're here to work with you. So whether it's a phone call, whether it's a visit, I would strongly encourage you all to stay in touch with us because that really is one of the core responsibilities of this position that I have as well as my office, to strengthen the relationship between the Central Tibet administration through the Office of Tibet with the growing diaspora community in North America. Finally, I want to say may the aspirations of our brothers and sisters, the people inside Tibet who continue to suffer, may the aspirations of wanting to see His Holiness return to Tibet, may the aspirations of wanting to see a free Tibet, may that be realized during the current lifetime of the great 14th Dalai Lama. And finally, may His Holiness, the great 14th Dalai Lama, live long. Thank you.
도시나 장아리 공의 퇴주에 개도로고 상라는 그리 남시 디데가 말이야 페체니 드링기 투딩기 대외니 갈로 계시게 원하는 도시나 주의 아니 디제리아 린친 유슬알 비비슈엘 아니 드링기 거버너 찰스 디 베거기 프로클레이션 기 이기드마 로로스피아 주의 아니 디제리아 그러나
Proclamation of Charles D. Baker, Governor of Commonwealth, Massachusetts. Whereas on March 10th, Tibetans around the world and in our Commonwealth gathered to celebrate their cultural identity, and whereas Tibet, located in the world's highest region of Central Asia, is often called the Roof of World, and whereas Tibet's cultural and artistic legacy is renowned throughout the world, and whereas our vibrant Tibetan American community has made tremendous contribution to the Commonwealth society and culture. Now, therefore, I, Charles D. Baker, Governor of Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim March 10, 2016 to be Tibet Day, and urge all the citizens of Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in this observance. By His Excellency Charles D. Baker, Governor of Commonwealth.
도시나 리젤라 아니 디젤이야 이실랄 비비슈엘 아니 아주 세네이터 아니 엘리자베트 워런 기 스테이트먼트 마 로르슈이
of the Tibetan people to maintain and preserve their religion, culture, and identity. Such freedoms are the foundation upon which our nation was built. But these are not only American values, they are universal values that apply to all human beings. We cannot, must not, and will not ever stop speaking out until the Tibetan people's fundamental rights are respected and protected. Thank you.
도시나 디스베라 아니 뒤슈글 초기라라 비규슈엘 아니 congresswoman 니키 한가스페지 아니 스테이트먼트만 로로 슈에이
On the 57th anniversary of the Tibetan Uprising, we continue our moral obligation to speak out for Tibetan people. It has long been U.S. policy to promote dialogue without preconditions to advance a solution in Tibet and to press for respect for human rights and the preservation of Tibetan religion, language, and cultural heritage. It is critical that the U.S. take a leading role and engage actively with partner nations on measures that could bring near-term improvements in the human rights situation in Tibet. The United States must actively engage partner nations on measures that serve to de-escalate rising tensions brought about by hardline Chinese policies and actions. In addition, continued attention must be paid to promoting dialogue between Chinese officials and Tibetan leaders in order to achieve a negotiated solution to the problems afflicting Tibet and the Tibetan people. The international community should continue to decry the abuses against Tibet in order to convey the aspirations for change that are being expressed so desperately by the Tibetan people directly to those who have the responsibility to heed their demands for change, respect, and basic dignity. From Congresswoman Nikki Thomas.
Christian Chogila 아니 디슈글이야 단단한주 다디르마 congressman Michael Capino 제 아니 congressman Joseph Kennedy 아니 senator Edward Markey 제 디르마 statement 망부스도 견동 다링 안주들이야 congresswoman 다 아니 congressman 제 아니 senator 동체 아니 견동 게스도 statement 아니 시라야 그래서도 아니 디르마 모티니 lawyer 메와치니 아니 디슈글이야 may I now request Director of Tibetan Buddhist Center Kurukula, Mr. Sean Gonzalez, to please come on stage and say something related to this event.
Tashidele. Good afternoon. I wish to start by thanking the Tibetan Association of Boston's president, Sonam Shantak, for inviting us, Geshe Tenli and myself, to join you today. As Geshe Tenli is en route to Singapore at the moment, I convey his warm and heartfelt greetings to everyone on his behalf. He will be attending a long life puja for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, which will happen on the 13th. I am also honored to stand beside such distinguished guests and thank them for their participation today and for their tireless contributions to the Tibetan cause. And I am privileged to have the opportunity to join them to say a few words in this important day to commemorate the 57th anniversary of the Tibetan National Uprising Day. As important as it is, today is merely one of the 365 years in a year when we must remember the continuing struggle of the Tibetan people. As a Westerner observing today's events, I am encouraged to see all of you here today, knowing that you represent so many of your brothers and sisters, that bind you and all of humanity together. Indeed, you are very fortunate. At Kurukul Center, we do our small part to help you to preserve one of the many aspects of your rich culture by following and continuing to spread the teachings of the great Buddhist masters that you have kindly nurtured for the benefit of all humanity. In this way, we follow your example with sincere appreciation for the product of millennia of your mindful, critical thinking to help all of us be freed from the sufferings caused by the poisons of ignorance, attachment, and hatred. In this day of commemoration, we thank you for your continued sacrifices and tireless efforts to preserve your identity, and we join you in your struggle until we all succeed together. My personal wish is to see that day come much sooner than any of us can possibly imagine. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tishishe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean, for your lovely and powerful message to the Tibetan people on this occasion. Thank you very much again. DJ Lia ani bibi shue la ani hadu jedong la ani ngaju ani Congressman Michael Kaepernick ke ani statement de march ki loro shue
It's an honor to be able to read this statement from Congressman Michael Capuano. It's a very, very powerful statement. March 10th, 2016. To the Tibetan Association of Boston, dear friends, I regret that I cannot be with you in person today. I hope you know that I am always with you in spirit. I grieve with you all for what Tibet has endured since the Chinese invasion, the sorrows of those who live in exile, and the sufferings of those who remain. I'm outraged that oppression and murder continue unabated. I mourn with you the tragic death of Tenzin Delek Rinpoche, who died July 12, 2015, in Chongdong Prison in Sichuan Province in the 13th year of captivity as a prisoner of conscience. In January of this year, I introduced House Resolution 584, urging President Obama to seek an independent investigation of his death and to call publicly for an end to the repressive policies of the People's Republic of China in Tibet. I am confident that March 10th will be commemorated around the world by men and women committed to human freedom and dignity. It is essential that this dark day not be forgotten and that Tibetans in exile continue to cherish their culture and traditions. A nation cannot be obliterated if its people survive as a people. I wish you courage today and tomorrow and every day until Tibet is free. Sincerely, Michael E. Capuano.
Ani tamadela ani ngaju chatsi chusurani ngawang sangtela lugu shue la ni tiringi tudingi tebe ani suji spiro shue ngawang sangtela
감사. 토마티라 디린 표기 순주 디진 태응업중 노트베 니무티리아 구미 계지 야지 레고와 슈마 행게라 니무네 카시 슈유인 마세 디린 디가를 회된 개교와 타 회된라 투네난게 용사라 국업디단 투네 캐치 슈디치부총 디린 군의 국업디 귀네 정리기 랑통원역이 꼴 럽점치 부분이리이네 슈유인 당부디 르니기 냠뇨 유네 회난기 첩시 점번 정康拿了 나주 동당당 당능신尊主特别机郎刚刚考虑有没过지규따지 동디参与 관나 당유 원경 회난기 표면수의 닝도라 남양 슈부메바 내유 미리식 선불 내규 소소의 깨단 리숑디 미터 메바식 인도 회난기 표면수 회계급디다 회미 퇴모 모임배 리쇼타 성격 용치 랑소 류동기 타즈热단 人不能 유원이 지로지동고 병업중어고 진도수배 체주 회미 기랑기 시구 치매지 통말 지로지동고 이게주게 변탕 갸게 개구지에네 고주디 회난 리베 시외 레구 망고 판자메바 변낭유 마세 니동게르 하세 시외 레구 치무디 그래서 용나 캐베 중원 디통네 그난게 표미 용기 야나 마르 시주들 데버미바시 야나 숑당 점리 미마 용나 세변나의 방구시리 원경 야마르 숑기 그당 나바군도 독습쟁기 적슈 코나 배제유 대기배 표미 장래 대배 최소 쇼유라 장래 대배 종康能 독습 나취 체미 연구원이 니모 교양 체모 교와 가외 거듭기 초원디 런네 롯유디 용시유 원경 퇴치나니기 피메츠 라완탄 딘베치 슈버미베 닝도티 무튜디 시웨 타즈 베신버니 나르탄 멘저웨 타즈기 카조식디 린친 체소 밀싱네 라완탄 딘베치도 레기 변능시유 미링월 진디니베 체니슈 공니你们推进度推起哪年呢？人间的厕所什么没生呢？ rang miri thang gegap ge chekdu leke pyenan khen po kushop kesang mongdu la rang lu choke le sweme la tishin po doji sidan la rang lu chuchu le sweme lona chawe po number 2 gi ningdo dini simchar jang ge thone bewa shi khane yi ngangzu changma chugu che ne yongwa sha da ri chi gen gi si gyur me zha ken gi be zhen jing gi miri ningdo jian shi gan yi ba chung ge yu pyenan ge pymi chi ningdo la shubu pyong me ba ta da pan ne yu la nam shi gi be ni mo ma sha gi pa do kwanang gi ningdo la chi jo ne bu gu me gu ba nam ya shu mi sun bu ne ngi ri ta de pyo gi gang en se gu na ke chi shu di pyo gi chep se gi gang en de se gu 개들 벽이 첩색이 강에 디세 못었나 벽이 표모 모임배 리쇼 성ገብ라 첨배 비미 조합이 탑된 서대 용도 제외 대딩 금일 변낭내 차단 치면 최내 저와 낭신배 비미수 첩슈네 안저 상마를 정글식 수규인 안저 치조라 예배 비미 용기 편지 독자 직진강 자오 수인 원신배 관내 교미기 심쇼 땜볼 내군의 리직 휴대총 죽동티를 진화 공사 경부 치부초 꾸지 개개 땜바당 표기 공대 타다 묘도 주베 민도 수기 그잖아
그시나 나와 상주라 아니 랑이 아니 되게 개갑다 페미릭 아니 치체도 아니 개숑기 와리야 두준양교다 아니 다나 신기 페미릭이 체도 아니 수수기 아니 삼주다 두준 들마 드링 모델이야 나중냠도 마 두시에버리야 시다 템부터 수부충수수웨이 아니 나와선라 두준나 쉐이 디젤 아니 나와노라 데 페체 아니 나주 까마치기 아니 베타도 스토어이 상말로 기슈 체병 아니 냠도 도로나 쉐이 디젤이야 나주 데니 상마 공회 대주 요도라 상말로 고바드웨이 고바드웨치 엔디르마 나주기 드링기 컴퓨터만 고즈웨이
China out of Tibet now!
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 Human rights in Tibet!
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 Release the Panchen Lama now!
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 Release the political prisoners 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 now!
Stop killing in Tibet!
Stop killing in Tibet!
Stop killing in Tibet!
Stop killing in Tibet!
Stop mining 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 in Tibet!
Stop murdering in Tibet!
Stop murdering in Tibet!
Stop murdering in Tibet!
Stop murdering in Tibet!
Shame on Chinese government!
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 China out of Tibet now!
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 Tibet for Tibetan!
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 Free Tibet now!
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 Long live the Dalai Lama!
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 到现在，我这里嘛，帮你这些对啦，我光打那个的，这 group 古巴军是专业是这个。
상물로 수페로나 끼르 페로나 상물로 푸시나 다들마 개베드마 공제도 고츠에 사말로 바른 랭잉이라고 페로나 쉐이
사실은 내라시 선생님 보사 미리 스피치 문도 지진이도 가만히 되는 그래서 여기 왜 뜻을 단다이 지진이도 가만히 째를 한다 와 진짜 두개 돼 둘 그래 뭐다 그래서 문제 버렸어 지금 저기 당한 데서 야생만 9번이야. 아직 9번 숨질 났어. 숨만 당하고요. 그래 하는 게 치기구나. 오늘 캔디비치 치우라. 캔디비치 치우라. 캔디비치 수대로 와. 네네네. fondan. 나타나. 그럼 뒤에 술 부든 데가. 커피 키시라스 나라. 커피. 커피 해야지. 커피가 정말 유명해. 아차있어가. 그래. 이제 됐어. 야만이 맛이야. 됐어. 사용. 또. Double, baby, me.
Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Tibetan! Tibetan! Human rights in Tibet! Human rights in Tibet! Tibet belongs to Tibetans! Stop the killing!
Free Tibet! China out of Tibet! No! China out of Tibet! No! Tibet belongs to! Tibet belongs to! Shame on Chinese government! Shame on Chinese government! Shame on Chinese government! UNO! 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 When do we want it? When do we want it? Good enough.
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
UNO!
We want justice!
UNO!
We want justice!
China!
Out of Tibet now!
China!
Out of Tibet now!
China!
Out of Tibet now!
Tibet belong to! Tibet belong to!
Tibetans!
Tibet belong to! Long live! Long live! Long live! Long live! Long live! Lo statri ngazo kondo de samsha ni ngazo teme de da yanga di ngazo yang chimi so ai di chola ni de sija ye no ma sija chero na shai
And we ngazu bhek yakap shimi gilu tai da thanda. Bhek yakap shimi gelo check ye. Tenzin around. Tenzin, come. Stars pelo banner come can you together. Okay, we do. Okay, let's all get loose from the water. Stars, together. Please, Shamupina Runang, so Ari Garutai, hats out, please. Hats. Stars, Palo, banners. 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs stinging air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
DJ là denzi me lan de na yi
Your
바데 공원 된지 그도 아가탕 몬마탕 드리 총마데 센슈니다 토나 차반들의 땅에 가서 고주시야 기대되라 페와데라 얘가 버스로 베리티드 터바가 차시는 니다반에 뒤지 샤도 쇼에 디제는 가서 마음발 못으네 아니 아무라사바당 아니 시제가 머리 땅 아니 시자갈 저 고디 빼야 된다라 아주 센슈마차 못으네 너로 저 투진 너로 저세니 베크당 이치에 쉬어야 로서 투체나 드리페어도 뒤지체 드링 아주 다 된지가 잠재 쉬고 이쉬어야 투체나 베롱체
장마이
베롱체
장마이
베롱체
장마이
long life
달레라마
long life
달레라마
long life
달레라마
넘버선데 시제 체로나 쉬어야 돼 자오 자오 쉬어나 뒤지체